Back home, and the peak body for free-to-air commercial broadcasters is pushing back against calls to further restrict gambling advertising. In a submission to a parliamentary inquiry into online gambling harm, Free TV Australia says more restrictions could mean less free sports coverage.
But some gambling experts have criticised the claims. Let's speak now to anti-gambling advocate Mark Kempster, who gave evidence at the inquiry this week. Good morning to you, Mark. Good to have you back on Weekend Breakfast. Just tell us about what evidence you presented to the parliamentary inquiry this week.
So basically, Joe, I gave a lot of evidence around the issues I still face today when I've been on a self-exclusion register around Australia for about 2.5 years now, and the contact that I still get from companies up to today. Also, some of the issues I faced when I was trying to quit gambling for the last probably 18 months of my addiction battle, which went for about 10 years. So a lot of insights to the inquiry to try and show the real issues we still face.
You also worked in the industry, so not only did you have your own battle with gambling addiction, but also you had an insider knowledge of the industry. Why was it so hard for you personally to break that addiction?
I think the industry lacks any duty of care to their customers. All round, basically, it was very hard. Every time I would try and quit, I'd use take a break self-exclusion functions through these companies multiple times. One company, I took short breaks 19 times from one company and then was allowed back onto the apps with no restrictions and still getting inducements to bet from these companies every time I went back. So they have these little things in place where they think they're doing to show they're doing the right thing, I suppose, by the customer, but they make it near on impossible, really, to break an addiction with the way it's set up at the moment.
So, based on your experience in your past, would you like to see more restrictions on gambling advertising, and what would that look like exactly?
To me, gambling advertising, it's no different to cigarette advertising. It's an adult product. It needs to be treated as such. The arguments that Free TV Australia put to the inquiry last week were based around if they lose the gambling advertising dollar, they're pretty much going to not be able to support local content in Australia and sporting rights. But to me, that's a cop-out. I can't see that the AFL or the NRL wouldn't be able to find money to pay for the advertising dollar anywhere else. And gambling advertising on TV, it adds nothing to the coverage at all. No one I know who still gambles wants to gamble just because there's advertising on TV, and the way it's set up now, it can be really, really damaging for people trying to beat addiction, but also the new generation coming through who are getting indoctrinated basically to see that they can't enjoy their sport without gambling, which is completely wrong.
You say it is a cop-out, but gambling can be and is a large source of revenue for broadcasters. We know that sport broadcasting rights can be very expensive and very competitive. So that may then result, this is what they're claiming, that in less free sports, but you don't agree with that claim?
No, well, they kind of contradicted themselves in their submission on Friday to the inquiry, is the way I believe it. They were saying that the extent of gambling advertising on TV these days isn't nearly as bad as what the community makes it out to be. So there's not nearly enough, not as many advertisements on TV. But then they're also saying that they're going to lose money to the point where they can't fund these sporting rights, basically. But as I said, to me, it can't be solely the amount of money that come in from gambling advertising is going to cost people sporting rights. It's going to cost the commercial television company sporting rights on TV. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sure they can find advertising in other spots to make up the difference.
So, Mark, at the moment we've got this parliamentary inquiry going on, but we've also had a lot of discussion, particularly in New South Wales, ahead of that state's election, about cashless pokies and cashless gaming cards, with the idea that that would help to limit and cap the amount that people can gamble at a time. What's your opinion on that?
I think it's a great idea. I think any type of cashless system would work extremely well for pokies. I'm for it as well in the online gambling world as well. Germany have a function where you can only deposit $1,000 a month, and even that's a large amount of money, but they can only do that per month, and they have a universal limit on all bookmakers in their country. Australia don't do that. You can have deposit limits and across every bookmaker in Australia, which allows people just to shop around and lose more money each day instead of having a system set up where it can be monitored to how much a person can deposit every month. So cashless debit cards and pokie machines are a no-brainer to me, and a system like I've just mentioned would be a no-brainer to me as well, with online gambling as well.
Mark Kempster, it's great to have you back on Weekend Breakfast. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Joe.
And I'll just mention that if you need assistance with gambling addiction, or if this story has raised any issues for you, you can contact the National Gambling Helpline. That's 1800 858 858. 1800 858 858.